not hate to say that we were kidnapped and brought here. It's true. It's not hate to say that we were Jim Crow, discriminated and segregated. It's true. It's not hate to say that the Supreme Court, which is the highest court in this country, came up with a hypocritical desegregation decision 9 years ago, which they haven't enforced yet. That's not hate. That's true.
You're quoted as having said when an airliner crashed with a number of white people on board that you were glad it happened.
The white race in this country collectively are guilty of these crimes that our people are suffering from collectively. And therefore they will suffer some collective disaster, collective grief. And when that plane crashed in France with 130 white people off.
No one man should withstand the weight of the world on his shoulders that die when it's over. Ain't no global warming, the world get colder. Ain't nobody doing shit, they taking our culture. Wake up and see y'all, ain't no balance on one side of the seesaw. We at war with Esau, and ain't nobody down with us. My niggas get up. I know what it's like to wake up fucked up. I know what it's like when the pain cut deep. You can't get on your feet and you just wanna stay asleep. When the shit too much, a nigga needs to roll up. And all you got is this money and this still ain't enough. To live is to survive, gotta hustle to stay alive. My girl don't understand, I can see that look in her eyes. And not the trouble of soul, I pacify with lies. I inflict the pain and wipe the tears of her cries. Baby, I know you heard an apologies in advance. I just pray to God that he give me another chance. Trying to make it to heaven, I got one hell of a plan. Dancing with the devil makes me a hell of a man. Yeah, I'm trying to be a better man, but my nigga down south won't put me up 200 amps. He told me if I needed to put that shit in my hands, is that a curse or a blessing, or do I see at the end?
We learned that 120 of them were from the state of Georgia, the state that my own grandfather was a slave in. Why, to me, it couldn't have been anything but an act of God, a blessing from God, and I frankly sincerely pray for
it's embedded, we can get it, man, it's levels to this. And I said it like I said it, cause I wanted to hit. I give credit where it's relevant, we better than them. It's evident we set the precedence to elevate men, but we'll never know the evidence killing other black men. And how we supposed to trust the hand we eat off, if we hand fed the very poison we feed off. We don't even need all this extra shit they letting us get. It only hold us back from our excellence. Links up, get together, ball, invest in shit. The true value of life, love our children and wife. Love to all of my niggas who can't be free for the life. R.I.P. all my niggas who passed on from this life. I love.
What's good? Shalom, shalom. What's up? We back. Yeah, I know you see the title. The light will shine on the dry bones of Israel, right? So yeah, we're gonna get into it, right? We're gonna get into the book of Ezekiel, Valley of the Dry Bones and all that cool stuff, right? And we're gonna break it down. You know, because, of course, you know, our people collectively, you know, we coming into this great awakening. You know, we understanding who we are as a people, understanding that this current system that we living in is, you know, is full of madness and craziness. And so, you know, a lot of us is getting that spirit and waking up and coming out of this Babylonian system, this matrix, right? Yeah, of course, giving all praises to the Most High God, we do so in His only begotten Son, Yahweh Shai, who the world might recognize as Jesus Christ, right? So we're gonna get into it. So yeah, you know, of course, like I said, we, you know, as we, you know, waking up, you know, through the Spirit in these last days, you know, the 144,000 getting sealed, you know, so we're, you know, a lot of us is waking up, coming to this great awakening. It's a good thing. And as we do so, you know, the Most High is going to create a great and strong, mighty nation out of His people, right? So let's go to Ezekiel 38 real quick. And start like this. Matter of fact, just start here though. Just start at start at Micah real quick. Micah 4 and 6. not that, not Micah, I'm sorry, Malachi. Hold up. Is it? Yes, it is. Hold on. Salakia. All right, let's go to Micah 4 and 5. Let's start at 5. And it says, for all my people walk everyone in the name of, well, not that one. It says, in that day, all right, start at verse 6. In that day, said the Lord, I will assemble her that halted, and I will gather her that is driven out, and her that I have afflicted. So, if you're familiar, his people has been driven to the four corners of the earth. And, we're predominantly here on the Western Hemisphere, but, we're scattered throughout all these nations. So it's going to come a time when he come and gather his people. And as his people is waking up, coming into the knowledge and understanding of who we are, it's going to, that's just going to speed in the process, right? Hold on. Let's get this real quick. So Hosea 4 and 6. And it say, my people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge, because thou have rejected knowledge, I will also reject thee. And that's the current state that, a lot of our people are in, is, because a lot of our people do reject knowledge. A lot of our people, have the tools and the resources to get these, get this information. And a lot of times they choose to not do so, right? They choose to, follow the ways of the world. Because it says, for my people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge, because they reject knowledge. I will also reject thee. So then oftentimes, because our disobedience, because our stubbornness, we go to hard times oftentimes, and stuff happen in our lives, that seem like we can't explain. But it's because of our obedience, because it says, my people are destroyed. So that destruction, that hell that comes in your life, and, that, what's that word I'm looking for? That unassurance of life, the weakened state of quality life, right? That comes from that destruction. It says, for my people is destroyed from a lack of knowledge, because thou hast rejected knowledge, I will also reject thee, that thou be no priest to me, seeing that thou forgotten the law of thy God. And that's what happens. We forgot, our covenant with the Most High, and how, as a people, we're supposed to keep it, because we're following these religions that tell us that we should not keep the law, and the law is impossible to keep. But yet, our people, came into covenant with the Most High and decided to do these things, and we did them, right? And so let's get into it. So back to Ezekiel 37 and 1. It says, the hand of the Lord is upon me, and carried me out in the spirit of the Lord, and set me in the midst of the valley, which was full of dry bones. So here the prophet Isaiah, and the dry bones is the people of Israel. Because if you're familiar, we're in captivity in the land of Babylon, similar to how we're in captivity in Mystery Babylon, the daughter of Babylon, America. So, and because we're downtrodden and oppressed in these lands, we have a lack of, umph, a lack of, spirit about ourselves because of the oppression. We just living day to day, scratching and surviving, good times, right? What else are we doing, right? So that's why it says, and the hand of the Lord is upon me, and carried me out in the spirit of the Lord, and set me down in the midst of the valley, which was full of dry bones. And those dry bones is our people, because my people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. Thou hast rejected knowledge, I will also reject thee. right? And that's our people. That's the current state. And it says, and because me and caused me to pass round about, and behold, there were very many open valleys, and lo, they were very dry. So, sometimes we be living in these conditions so long, we be in our position so long, we see our environment in the way that it is so long. You know how they say the product of your environment. And you're not able to see the flaws in that reality oftentimes. So sometimes you have to take a step back and have a bird's eye view. So that's what the Most High God did for our dear brother Ezekiel. It says, he caused me to pass by them around about, and behold, there were very many in open valley, and lo, they were very dry. So now he's able to take a step back and just look at the condition of his people and analyze it and see, like, dang, we are really jacked up as a people collectively, right? Then it says, and he said unto me, Son of man, can these bones live? And that's what a lot of our questions is today, because oftentimes we see the condition that we in. We see how, what they call the YNs and stuff like that. We see how they, getting down, right? We see the broken households and stuff like that, right? And, we see the uncle on drugs. We see the auntie that's out here running the streets, right? We see these things. And we say to ourselves, it says, Son of man, can these bones live? And that's the thing we be asking, like, how could we be the people of God? How could we, be the guys and the kings and the queens and the priests, of this planet? Look how we are. We gangbang, we sell drugs, we prostitute, we unalive people. We do a lot of stuff. How could we live, right? That's the question. That's why a lot of people find this information hard to believe, because they look at their environment, they look at the current state of our people, and they be like, nah, can't be us, right? But no, it's exactly us, right? And we got to understand that. And as we wake up and come back to, our culture, law, statutes, and commandments, and keep the faith, we're going to fix all of this madness that's going on in this earth, right? And it says, and he said unto me, Son of man, can these bones live? And I answered, O Lord God, thou knowest. So Ezekiel's like, look, these people so jacked up, I don't know. I mean, you can call it. I can't call it. Only you know, Lord, right? And it says, again he said unto me, prophesy upon these bones, and say unto them, O ye dry bones, hear the words of Yahweh. And that's what we do. We prophesy to our people. We teach our people the law, statutes, and commandments, the proper understanding of these scriptures. Give them the true, gospel, the true spirit, right? And it says, prophesy upon these bones, and say unto them, O ye dry bones, hear the words of Yahweh. And that's what we do. We ask our people to hear these words. Let God be true and every man a lie, right? Put aside these false religions and these ideologies that have been taught to us and beaten into us, and come back to our culture and identity of who God is calling us to be, right? And it says, thus said the Lord God unto these bones, behold, I will cause breath to enter into you, and ye shall live. And that's what's going on. That's the breath of life. The breath of life is the spirit, that ruah, right? That, because what did Christ say? The words I speak unto you is spirit, right? And that's what we do. We speak the words of the Most High God, right? When we prophesy and read these precepts line upon line, right? And it says, thus said the Lord God, thus said the Lord God unto these bones, I will cause breath to enter into you, and ye shall live, right? And that is the breath of life. What is the laws of God, right? It's not, God got like a little, what's a little infibrillators, or the little things that breathing tubes, or the little stuff when somebody pass out, or somebody put a mask on their face and they be pumping it and trying to push air into. No, that's not how the breath of life is. The commandments, his laws, what he gave to Adam, right? Because a lot of people think he done gave Adam mouth to mouth resuscitation. No, the breath of life was him giving them the instructions to rule the planet, like he gave us the instructions to rule the planet through Moses, right? So it says, thus said the Lord God unto these bones, behold, I will cause breath to enter into you, and ye shall live, and I will lay sinews upon you, and will bring flesh upon you, and cover you with skin, and put breath in you, and ye shall live. And that's what's going on as you come back to the culture, as you come back to these statutes and commandments. Learn this Bible, learn the scriptures. Understand that you're an Israelite. Keeping the faith in the Mashiach Yahushua, who the world calls Christ, right? And what it says, bring upon you and cover you with skin, and breathe into you, and ye shall live, and ye shall know that I am the Lord, right? So it's gonna increase your wisdom and knowledge, strengthen you in the faith, right? Because over here, it tells us this right here. It says, Psalms 19:7. It says, the law of the Lord is perfect, converting the soul. So it converts the soul. It turns those dry bones into living souls, right? It says, converting the soul. The testimony of the Lord is sure, making wise the simple. So it puts those sinews and tendons and the knee bone connected to the hip bone and all that stuff. It put all that stuff together. Right? It builds you a strong spiritual body, because it says, the law of the Lord is perfect, converting the soul. The testimony of Yahweh is sure, making wise the simple. And it increases your wisdom and knowledge and understanding in this thing as you continue in your walk, right? And that's how it goes. Let's get just real quick, I think. I think it's where it at. Hold on. Finding like this, wasting time. Hold on. One more. Boom. So Psalms 119:42. Then it says, thy righteousness is everlasting. Thy righteousness and thy law is truth. Right? And that's the truth. And as you get the truth, those dry bones begin to gain flesh. Because it says over here, it says, and I will lay sinew upon you, and I will bring up flesh upon you, and cover you with skin, and put breath in you. That's the spirit. And it says, and ye shall live, and ye shall know that I am Yahweh. Right? And that's how, that's how the Most High God, works through his people as he continued to waken us, and and these prophecies continue to go forth, and his people is waking up. Like I said, and the knowledge will increase. Hold on, let's get this. All right, it's Deuteronomy 30:15. It says, but let's start at 14. It says, but the word is very nigh unto thee, in thy mouth, in heart, that thou mayest do it. And it says, boom, boom, boom. It says, and see, I have set before thee this day life and good, death and evil. And that's what God has given us. What it seems to be a choice, because if you keep the commandments, you have good and life and good. But if you don't keep the commandments, it tells us death and evil. So, I mean, how, so the choice is yours, right? So, that's the thing. And so, but as we waking up and understanding that we are the people and we choosing to keep these commandments, right? And it tells us that, what does it say? It says, see, I have set before thee this day life and good and death and evil. So then we're choosing the life and the good from the Most High God, right? Because without the commandments, you get the death and the evil. And that's what Adam got. Because, a lot of people will say, well, they didn't die right away. No, they didn't die right away, but they got the evil. They got the consequences that come from not obeying God. So once all they knew was good, which was God, protecting them, rewarding them for their obedience. It's just like a child. Like, you can tell a child fire is hot. And then they can go their whole life understanding that fire is hot, never touched it before, right? And, but then that one day they decide to test with the knowledge that you done told them about fire is hot. They decide to put their finger in it. Now they done found the evil. Now they got the evil because they didn't obey, right? So, the same thing. So, back over here. It says, so I prophesied as I was commanded, and I prophesied there was a noise, and behold, a shaking, and the bones came together, bone to his bone, so that the knee bone connected to the hip bone, everything started to come together, right? Because we're waking up, we're understanding who we are as a people, and it's making sense, and we're like, yo, we gotta get up out of this slumber, right? And hold on real quick, turn this thing on real fast. But yeah, so so as we waking up and understanding, like, yo, this whole thing that we've been taught our whole life is wrong, right? And because what it tells us, the truth should set us free. So as we coming into the truth, that free, give us free, and when spiritually is setting us free, we getting the understanding, because like it tells us, it make wise the simple, right? Converted, the laws of the Lord is simple, converting the soul, right? And making wise the simple. And it says, let's get this real quick. Let's get Acts 17 and 6. So that's the one I want. So yeah, it started at 6. So it says, and when they found them, they drew Jason and certain brethren unto the rulers of the city, crying, and these that have turned the world upside down. And that's what's going to happen as we waking up, and we're turning the world upside down now. And that's why everybody look at us like this fringe group of people, like we're just some type of radicals, comparing us to actual radicals, people that actually do stuff, right? Because what does it say over here? It says, and as I prophesied, there was a noise, and behold, a shaking, and the bones came together, and bone to his bone. So we're coming into the wisdom, we're gathering as a people, And over here it says, and it says, and they found them and drew Jason a certain brethren unto the rulers of the city, crying, these that have turned the world upside down. So Jason was one of them dudes that was out there turning the world upside down, prophesying to his people, telling his people the truth, right? Telling them to break out of these Roman and Greek customs that y'all following, right? The same way we telling our people to break out of these American customs and systems that we're following. It's Revelation 11 and in 11, and it says, after three days and a half, the spirit of life from God enter into them, and that's what's going on. So as we're receiving this information from the Most High God, studying and getting the truth, keeping the commandments, right? And like it told us over here, and bring up flesh on you and cover you with skin and put breath in you. That's the spirit, that ruach. And it says, and ye should live, and ye should know that I am the Lord. Over here it says, and after 3.5 days, because it's talking about a dispensation of time. After our period in slavery, as we start to awaken, you had a lot of different Black Renaissance after, we came off them plantations and stuff, right? Then we slowly start coming into the knowledge, because the Bible told us that he kept, a remnant, of our people with this information. And they carried on the tradition. And it says, after 3 days and a half, the spirit of life from God entered into them. And they stood on their feet, and a great fear fell upon them which saw them, right? And that's what's going on. A great fear fall upon these nations when they see us. When they see us, unified and orderly and with our, garments and our attire on, with our fringes and stuff like that. They like, who these niggas on that nag? Who that nigga on that nag? Right? They don't like it, right? They get scared. And it says, and fear felt upon them which saw them, and that's why they go crazy. We don't have no weapons. All we do is read the Bible, call the white man the devil, because that's the truth, and preach liberation for our people. And they hate it, right? And they hate it because great fear felt upon them which saw them, right? So back over here. And it says, and when I beheld, and lo, the sinews and the flesh came upon them, and the skin covered them above, but there was no breath in them. So, again, some of our people is waking up, because like it tells us in Daniel, in the last days, knowledge shall increase, right? So, some of us is waking up, but some of us is still, following into these other little super astrological type of stuff, trying to, because our people, we like fantasy, we love a good lie, as long as it's a good enough lie, and we will roll with it, right? And so although we're understanding that this, whatever religious system you grew up in, and where this system that we currently live in is not correct, and so then they searching, and some people search and never find, right? And that's why it says, and when I behold, and lo, the sinews and the flesh came upon them, and the skin covered them above, but there was no breath in them, meaning they didn't have the Spirit of God. So although they may, broke away from, whatever they broke away from, but they don't have it, the Spirit of God with them yet, right? Or in them, and sometimes those people end up becoming atheists, right? Because they got so mentally, warped that they like, throw everything away. Because it says, but there was no spirit in them. So although, they got strength enough to gather themselves and break away from whatever that was holding them, but the spirit is not in them. Hold on. What is that? Because is it in 30? Hold on. Find this one verse about here. Hold on. So yeah, this what I look for. Proverbs 16 and 25, right? So let's read this one more time. So it says, "And the skin covered them above, but there was no breath in them." So, like we said, because sometimes a lot of those people, they end up becoming atheists or whatever they might get into, or some little fringe type of belief, right? But then it still is this. Proverbs 16 and 25, it says, there is a way that seems right unto a man. So sometimes, people will say, well, I know this is, the right thing to do. I was addicted to cigarettes, or I was addicted to crack cocaine for such and such years, and I started doing this, and I know this is right. And that's cool. You got out of your addiction or whatever that was ailing you in your life. But people must be mistaken that stepping stone for the plateau, for the final step. But that's just the Most High God saving you out of grace from that and trying to nudge you towards the truth. But oftentimes, a lot of times, people just stop right there. And it says, Proverbs 16 and 25, there is a way that seems right unto a man, but the end thereof, there's the ways of death, right? So sometimes we can be in our spirit, we think we're doing something right, we think it's righteous because it feels good, but there is a way that seems right unto a man, because right is subjective. Truthfully, when you get, if you're doing it outside of what the Bible tell you, right and righteous is subjective, so what's right to one person might not be right to another person. So that's why it's telling us there is ways that seem right unto a man, but the end thereof are the ways of death. Because it might be right for somebody to go unalive every other person you see on the street. And somebody might say, hey, that's not a good idea to unalive every other person you see on the street, right? So what's right to one person could be not so right to the other. But that's if you're doing it outside of what the Most High God said, right? So it says, but there was no breath in them. Then said he unto me, prophesy unto the wind, prophesy, son of man, say unto the wind, right? And that's what we do, right? We prophesy to the wind, even if it's only 1 or maybe 10, we still prophesy, right? Because it's not about the numbers, right? It's not about, everybody get the big mega church and all that stuff, the nice fancy suits and all that. It ain't about that. We prophesy to the wind, right? Because, meaning, even if they don't hear you, say it anyway, right? Because as long as it's being said, it's going to catch, somebody going to hear it. And because it did hit the air, the Most High God is going to require it of them, right? This thing is very dangerous when you think about it, right? 'Cause a lot of people think this is Very dangerous. What I mean by that? Most High God judges, and his judgment is, if it hit your ear, you can be looking the other way talking to somebody else, and you hear the person saying it, and you know, Most High God be like, hey, why you didn't stop and try to further understand what that man was trying to tell you, right? You're going to require it of you. The Bible tells you that, right? But we think it's okay to just, push the man of the Lord, to the side and carry on. But the Most High God says he's going to require it of you, right? Meaning he's going to, ask you why you did not listen to that person when I sent them. So, and that's what people got to understand. Because, this one person told me, that part in the Bible where it says, when Jesus says, if they don't accept it, then, dust the dust off your feet, right? So that's what the person quoted to me. And I said to them, I'm like, okay, you're quoting that verse to me. So that means you have a little understanding of what that verse means. I'm like, so why would you want to be the person that I am dusting my feet off to? That means, you marked yourself, That's not a get out of jail free card. That's like, Jesus not saying like, well, okay, well, all right, next person then. No, you marked yourself, right? What we read that, what is it? Let's go right back. Deuteronomy 15 and 30 and 15. People gotta understand this. What does it say? It says, see, I have set before thee this day life and good, and death and evil. Right? That's the choices you have. Right? The life and good comes with keeping the statutes and commandments that he gave us in the faith. The death and evil comes with not keeping the commandments and the statutes that he gave us. Right? And just doing the things that the world say do. Right? That these worldly religions tell us to do. Right? So, back over here. It says, prophesy, it says, thus saith the Lord, and it says, then said to me, prophesy unto the wind, son of man, and say unto the wind, thus saith the Lord God, come from the four winds, O breath, and breathe upon these slain, that they may live, right? And again, so, and all the time too, like I said, so sometimes, person might not get the message right away, but then they might get it another way, and then as they receive it, and what happens, it says that they may live. So I prophesied as he commanded me, and breath came into them, and they lived and stood upon their feet, exceeding great army, right? And that's what they were, exceeding great army. Let's get this one more time over here in Revelation 11. And it says, and after 3 days and a half, spirit entered, the spirit of life from God entered into them, and they stood on their feet. A great fear fell upon them which saw them, right? Because over here it tells us that, and they lived and stood upon their feet, a exceedingly great army. That's what the Most High God is raising up amongst his people. He's raising up a mighty army, right? A mighty, strong, militant army, black and brown army. That's what he's raising up, right? Because a lot of people are like, well, you don't gotta speak like that, because we are the army of the Lord. What's that song? Marching in the army of the Lord, the army of the Lord, right? Right? That's where we at with it. Then it says, verse 11, Then he said unto me, Son of man, these bones are the house of Israel. In case you didn't get the message already, that's who we talking about. That's who these bones is. The house of Israel. We are the dry bones. We are the disenfranchised, the downtrodden, the forgotten, right? We are the dry bones, right? We are the, the miseducated, right? The most, intimidated, because that's how they come at us. Because it says, then he said unto me, Son of man, these bones are the whole house of Israel. They are they say our bones are dry, and our hope is lost, right? And that's what we think. Dealing with these people in this system, how it's going. It's like if these people continue to run things, it ain't gonna, the hope is it ain't gonna be no hope, right? And that's how we look at things. That's why a lot of times we live the way we live, right? Because we're like, well, what Tupac used to say, I'll be lucky if I live to get, be lucky we live to see 21, lucky to see 25, right? Because that's, for a long time, that was the concept of our people, It was a milestone to, it was a different type of milestone to actually graduate from high school and to actually reach the age of 18, then follow that up, reach the age of 21, then follow that up, reach the age of 25, then probably make it to the age of 35 without having being arrested, without having a record. Those were milestones, right? And still is milestones, right? And it says, our bones are dry and our hope is lost. We are cut off from our parts. Therefore prophesy and say unto them, Thus saith the Lord God, Behold, my people, I will open your graves, and I will cause you to come up out of your graves and bring you into the land of Israel. Right? So again, the Most High God is going to wake up his people, bring his people back into the land, right? The real people back into the land. And, and show mercy on his people once again, right? And it says, And ye shall know that I am Yahweh, when I have opened your graves and my people and brought you out of your graves. And that's what's going on as we're waking up and getting the spiritual revival, right? And coming to the understanding of who we are, right? We see that, right? It ain't them over there. I mean, these guys don't even have no rhythm, let alone any spirit, right? So it ain't them, right? So, and we are the ones that's getting woken up out of our graves, coming into the understanding. We are the ones that need to be woken up out of our graves. We are the ones whose culture have been snatched and taken, and heritage and language and all that stuff, right? So we are the ones that need to be woken up out of the slumber. We are the ones that's going around calling ourselves all these different bywords and names that, that's outside of our God-given name. So we are the ones that need to be waking up out of these graves with our European names, right? Then it says, And I will put my spirit in you, and yet live, and I shall place you in your own land. Then ye will know that I am the Lord, and I have spoken it and performed it, said the Lord. Right? And we're gonna know in that day, right? Because it definitely ain't them. Them people ain't got an ounce of God in them, right? Then it says, the words of the Lord came to me again, saying, Moreover, son of man, take thee one stick and write upon it, right? And that's what we're doing right now. We're taking one stick and writing upon it. That's why I constantly, every time I speak, let it be known that my brothers is the Black, Hispanic, and Native American people, right? Those are my people, black and brown, right? One stick, one nation, one people, right? Although through conquest and war and all this other politics stuff, we have been separated, right? We got a lot of black and brown, going against each other in many different places. But here, covenant of zealots, unity, black and brown, right? That's what we understand. That's what we practice, because the Bible tells us what it say. It says, moreover, son of man, take thee one stick and write upon it for Judah, which is the southern kingdom, Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, who we will identify today in Americas as the so-called Black American, Jamaicans, and Haitians. Those will be from the tribe, the kingdom of Judah. Then it says, and for the children of Israel, his companions, which will be our so-called Native American, Latino, Hispanic tribes, so we will identify them as today, right? And it says, and join them one to another into one stick, and they should become one in thy hand, right? That's what we do here. We combine our people. We break those barriers. We don't practice colorism over here, right? We don't believe in all that putting each other against each other. We don't do gender wars over here, right? We don't do none of that divisive stuff amongst our people, right? Because over here, the Most High God told us to take these nations and make them one nation again, like how we once were, right? And that's going to happen, and that's happening as we're waking up and understanding who we are as a people. And it says, and join them one to another, one stick, and they shall become in thy hand. That's what they do. When we show the 12 tribe chart, is to identify who our people are. Now, we're not saying that we're not saying like 100%. We're not saying that every single black person is an Israelite, right? Because the Bible tells us you have wheats and tares, right? We're not saying that every Latino, Hispanic, and Native American that is a Israelite, but those that are patrilineal connected to is, right? If your father, go back to those prospective nations, then you are indeed an Israelite from those various tribes, right? Because it's a patrilineal thing. It's not a color thing. It's not a, it's a bloodline thing, right? And it goes to the father. And then it tells us, and join them one to another, one stick, and they shall become one in thy hand. And that's what we do, right? Like I said, we bring the northern and southern tribes together, because we've been separated for centuries. Ever since this, the death of Solomon, we've been going at it with each other. So when I hear black people say this about, our Hispanic, Latino brothers, it don't bother me. When I hear our Latinos and Hispanic brothers say this about black people, it don't bother me, because it goes back to the scriptures. Because during the after the death of Solomon, the kingdom split, and we've been beefing ever since. And even before that, because Solomon, when Solomon was king, he was oppressing the northern kingdom, our northern kingdom brothers. He's had them under heavy taxation, right? And so it was always a little beef, between the two. But when you understand the history and the tension, because we had a couple civil wars amongst ourselves when you get into this thing, right? So when you understand the history, that's why it's important that it says, join them to one another, one stick, and they shall become one in thy hand. And the children of thy people shall speak unto thee, saying, will thou not show us what thou mean by these? So that's what we do. So when I say, when I talk to a fellow black person, a fellow colored, fellow Negro, I'm just playing. But when I talk to somebody and I be like, yeah, those our Latino brothers, Native American brothers, they be like, oh, what you mean by, blah, blah, blah. Then we can have the conversation, get into the history and the understanding of how we're all one people, right? That's the whole point. God is telling us to do these things so we can have these, conversation starters, for a lack of better terms. When you see, hey, Cubans, Dominicans, Haitians, Brazilians, Argentinians, Guatemalans, Jamaicans, so-called African Americans. When you see these people names right next to their biblical nationality, that should spark many questions in your head and wonder why. Are these names connected to these people and how? Right? So that's what God's telling us to do. Right? And that's how we're waking up our people through these, different, means, right? Because when people would see, a picture or something like that, and like I said, see these different tribes and names attached to it, that makes them want to, ask questions and see why do we say Mexicans is from the tribe of Issachar? Why do we say the Jamaicans are the Benjamites? Why do we say black people are from the tribe of Judah? Why? Why? Why they never let Kiss do a whole nother why song, right? Why? So, back over here, and it says, boom, 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 and say unto them, thus saith the Lord God, behold, I will take the stick of Joseph, which is in the hand of Ephraim, in the tribes of Israel, his fellow, and I will put them with him, even with the stick of Judah, and make them one stick, and they shall be one in my hand. So God says it's no longer going to be a northern kingdom and southern kingdom. We're going to be the nation of Israel, right? All again, right? Because it's going to bring us all back and put us back into his hand. Then it says, in the sticks whereon thou shalt write shall be in thy hand before their eyes. So a lot of people, so when you see, our fellow Israelite brothers out there doing the work, preaching on the corners, and you see this sign and it says Judah, American Black, Ephraim, Puerto Rican, Mexican, Issachar, you see these names, God told us to put these up there in front of the people so they can see these things, so they can see it. And then it's going to make them ask questions, those that have the inquiring minds to know. Then it says, in the sticks thereon thou writest shall be in thy hand before their eyes. And they should say then, they should say unto them, thus saith the Lord, behold, I will take the children of Israel from among the heathen, rather they be gone, and I will gather them on every side and bring them into their own land. So, like I said, so we prophesied and tell our people, no matter where we're scattered to, no matter what they're calling us today, these different names that they identify us by today, he's going to bring us together and bring us back into that land, right? And let's get this real quick. And it says, and they say unto them, thus saith the Lord God, behold, I will take the children of Israel. Okay, yeah. And it says, let's get Amos 9 and 11 real quick. Amos 9 and 11. And it say, in that day I will rise up the tabernacle of David that is fallen. So he's going to rise up, the house of Judah, right? He's going to, because we're fallen. We've fallen here in America, being oppressed, subjugated, and how we've been treated for the last 500 years, right? And it says, but in that day I will rise up the tabernacle of David that is fallen, and close up the breaches thereof. Meaning, he's going to rise us up and build us and make us strong, that whatever, it ain't going to be no bad foundation as he building up the house of Israel once again. And we're not going to be able to be broken down and crumbled and conquered and taken down into a whole nother nation and enslaved after this process happened, right? So it says, in that day I will rise up the tabernacle of David that is fallen and close up the breaches thereof, meaning it's not going to be we're not going to ever get destroyed again. And it says, and I will raise up his ruins, and I will build it as it in the days of old, that they may possess the remnant of Edom and all the heathens which are called by my name, said the Lord God, that doeth this. Right? So that's the promise of the Most High God. He's gonna build up his people. And then after he build us up and give us that, that strong spirit, that life, right? We're gonna possess these same people and rule over these same people that oppressed us and had us subjugated for many, many centuries, right? Then it says, just read it again. It says, and they shall possess, because that's what the word means, right? If I possess something, I possess this cup right here. This is mine. Like Lil Wayne says, this is my cup. Don't worry about what's in my cup, right? It's my cup. I possessed it. So, and they shall possess the remnant of Edom and all of the heathen which are called by my name, said the Lord, that do this, right? So that's the promise. So he's gonna build us up, and then we're gonna possess those people that once ruled over us, right? Isaiah 14:2. Also, if you need more on that. Back up here. And it's saying, and I will make them one nation in the land upon the mountains of Israel. One king should be king over them. And we know that's the Mashiach Yahweh Shai, who the world calls Jesus. And they should no more two nations. So we're not going to be functioning as two nations. We're not going to be like, black and Latino, black and brown. We're not going to use those terms anymore. We're just going to be the nation of Israel, the people of Israel, right? And it says, no more two nations, neither shall they be divided into two kingdoms anymore. Neither shall they defile themselves anymore with idols, nor with detestable things. And that was the problem with our Northern Kingdom brothers. They was into idol worship and stuff like that. That's why they end up getting cast off first and took it and spread it out through, the whole world. Predominantly, most of them coming over here, before we did, right? And till they continue to idol worship, through, down there in the Americas, right? And a lot of our people follow right behind, and that's how we end up in the west coast of Africa, then eventually over here, because into idol worshiping, right? And following other religions. Because people have to understand, like, when people make the argument, well, it's only one God, it doesn't matter what, because we all worshiping the same God anyway. When people say that, here's what's happening. Either they never read this book before. They're probably saying some stuff that somebody told them. Or they probably read this book and so indoctrinated in Christianity that they don't understand that God has did many, many, things to Israel for following other gods, right? So to say, oh, well, it's all the same God, it don't matter, it's all the same God, then you don't read this book, right? And you don't respect the God of this book, because he unalives people for not, following him and, worshiping other gods. The people of Israel, of course, because can't read in this book about him being upset with other nations for worshiping gods, but his people, that's another story. So, and it say, and neither shall they defile themselves anymore with their idols, nor with their detestable things, nor with any transgression, but I will save them out of their dwelling places, where they have sinned, and I will cleanse them, so they may be my people, and I will be their God, right? And that's how we know who we are and who they are, and they're not who they say they are, right? And we're letting them off the hook, right? And because over there, again, they've been over there for quite a while, right? And what have they done? They have accumulated and multiplied sin on top of sin, destruction on top of destruction, hate on hate, massacre on massacre, sedition on sedition, since they've been over there, right? That's not me talking, right? That's history, that's facts, that's stuff we can look up, right? That's what they've been doing over there. How could they be the people? Isaiah chapter 2 tells us peace on earth when we there, right? So how could they be the people, right? It's crazy to think. What did it say? Hold on, one more time. It says, where they have sinned, I will cleanse them, so they be my people, and I'll be their God. So again, over there are a secular nation, right? We use that J word and think that it's because of this. No, they're secular, right? That is cosplay at its best. That's what they're doing over there. They don't believe none of this stuff in there, right? They have their own books that they read. They have their own language that they speak, and they try to attach it to this, right? Crazy, right? These people have the world's biggest homosexual parade in the world. Not just the city, Craig, the world, right? Gay capital of the world, Tel Aviv, is in the Lord's place. Can you think about that? Think about that for a hot second, right? But these are the people, though, right? The ones that's supposed to keep the laws of God. But everything that is abominable and detestable and wrong and against God goes on over there, right? What they say, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. That's a whole big giant Vegas over there, right? I mean, Epstein ain't the only one, there's more. So, and it say, and David my servant shall be over them, and they all shall have one shepherd, and they shall also walk in my judgments. So that's what's going on. The Mashiach Yahweh is going to be our king, and we're going to walk in the ways of the Most High God once he put us back over there. And they shall dwell in the land that I give unto Jacob my servant, where in our fathers have dwelt, and they shall dwell therein, even they and their children and their children's children forever. And my servant David shall be their prince forever. Moreover, I will have my covenant of peace with them, and it shall even be an everlasting covenant with them, and I will make peace with them and multiply them, and I will set my sanctuary in the midst of them forevermore. Right? And that's what he's going to do. He's going to set his sanctuary in the midst of them. Who is the them? The Israelites. That's where his sanctuary is, in the midst of. Right? Because it tells us right here, Joel 2:27. And ye should know that I am in the midst of Israel. Like he just told us, in that day, he's going to be amongst us, his people. Ye should know that I am in the midst of Israel, and I am the Lord your God, and none else. And my people should never be ashamed. Right? That's what it says. He is our God and none else. Right? And we're not going to be ashamed in that day. Right? Jeremiah 31:31. Really quick. Hold on, let's keep going. And it says, and my tabernacle also shall be with them. Yeah, I will be their God, and they shall be my people. Right? Jeremiah 31 and 31 really quick for the people. So Jeremiah 31 and 31 says this, everybody. And it says, Behold, the day come, said the Lord, I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and the house of Judah. So Northern Kingdom, Southern Kingdom is going to make a covenant with us. And we already just read how he's going to make us one house again. He's going to bring us back, right? Not according to the covenant that I had made with their fathers in the day that I took them by the hand and bring them out of the land of Egypt, which by covenant they break. Because, again, the Israelites, if you're familiar, the covenant we got through Moses, we watched, you read, I said you watch, but if you read the Bible, you can see throughout history, we didn't always keep the laws of God. We start trying to assimilate to other nations that were surrounding us and start following them and doing what they were doing instead of doing what we should be doing. So here's the thing. This is how to look at it real quick while we're talking about the laws. Because people will make the argument, well, nobody can keep the laws of God. That's why they never kept the laws. It's just not that the laws it's so hard to keep and, that they just couldn't keep them. And that's why they needed Jesus. That's not, that's kind of it. But what I'm saying is this. It's just that those surrounding nations around them were so enticing. And the way that they were living and the way that they were doing things were so kind of enticing and interest us, so that we say, hey, let's mix that in with what we're doing. Hey, let's get a little bit of something of that. Let's try a little bit of that. Hey, I like how they do that. Let's do that too. So then as we start to do these things, we stop doing our things, right? So it's not that, oh, the laws is just so, oh my God, I can't do this. It's so hard to do. It's just that we are so easily influenced by stuff that's so attractive to us that, we'll be like, all right, yeah, let's mix that on up in this too, right? That's why people like gumbo so much. People that eat gumbo, gumbo is a whole pot of mixed stuff, right? Because that's what we do with our spirituality. We mix a whole bunch of stuff, right? You got these people, real quick, I'm not rambling, real quick. You got these people on some, what they call this little new African spiritualism stuff, right? And talking about chakras and stuff like that. Like, you mixing East Indian culture with some other little biggity black stuff that you done came up with, and you calling it African spiritualism. No, that's some East Indian stuff that you try to put a black spin on, right? But, that's how it goes. But it says, I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and the house of Judah, not according to the covenant I made with their fathers in the day I took them by the hand and brought them out of Egypt, which my covenant they break, because we start following this other stuff. Although I was a husband unto them, said the Lord, but this shall be a covenant that I will make with the house of Israel and the house of Israel after those days, said the Lord. I will put my laws in their inward parts. So again, He's going to give us the Spirit, the law, the covenants, the blessings, right? Like you can read in Romans 9 and 4, right? And it says, I will make the house of Israel, I will make but this shall be the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, said the Lord. I will put my law in their inward parts and write it in their hearts, and I will be their God, and they shall be my people, right? And that's the promise, and that's the covenant for the house of Israel to be His people. And we already established who the house of Israel by reading Ezekiel 37, which told us it's the northern kingdom, southern kingdom coming back together as one stick, right? So that's who the covenant is for, right? And that's the rising of His people, right? Let's go back over here. And it says, my tabernacle also should be with them. Yeah, I would be their God, and they should be my people, right? Because again, it says, behold, the days come, said the Lord, I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and the house of Judah, not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day I took them by the hand and bring them out of the land of Egypt, which my covenant they break, although I was a husband unto them, said the Lord. Right? So he's going to, reestablish that covenant, create a new covenant with his people, right? And it says, my tabernacle also shall be with them. Yeah, I will be their God, and they shall be my people. And the heathen, so these other nations, the people that's outside of Israel, what's going on with them? And the heathen shall know that I, the Lord, do sanctify Israel. Meaning he separated us, he sanctified us, he took us and made us separate from the rest of the people. Because Christ coming back to separate the goats and the sheep, right? He says, I do sanctify Israel, with my sanctuary shall be in the midst of them forevermore. So when the people see that the temple of God is with us, right, with the Black, Hispanic, and Native American people, they're going to know in that day, if they don't know now, who we are and that the Most High God is with us, right? Isaiah 60 real quick. And it say, arise, shine, for the light come, for the light is come, and the glory of the Lord is risen upon thee. So the light and the glory of the Lord is risen upon thee, upon the Israelites, right? Let's get this real quick. Romans 9:4. And it say this. It says, let me get to the point. It says, let's start at 3. Well, let's get to the point. It says, who are Israelites, to whom pertaineth the adoption. So the adoption pertains to the Israelites, and the glory and the covenants. We just read that because it just told us that the covenant is going to be for the house of Israel. Then it says, in the giving of the law, and the services of God, and the promises. So all that stuff belongs to the Israelites, right? It says, who are Israelites, whom pertaineth the adoption, the glory, and the covenant, and the giving of the law, right? Because over here it's told us right here, it says, and the glory of the Lord is risen upon thee. So that glory that is promised in Romans 9:4, we're seeing it in the end times through the prophet Isaiah, how it plays out. The glory of the Lord is being placed on his people, right? Like that song, I got the power. Boom, boom, like a boom, 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 like a boom, boom. I got the power. Right, like that, right? So it says, for behold, the darkness shall cover the earth, and a gross darkness the people. So because we're talking end times here, we're talking post World War III, Armageddon, all that stuff. Everybody done pushed their red button and nuked everything, right? And so the world is looking kind of messed up. People is living like savages, They getting it how they live, right? They out here getting their poo shiesty on, getting it back in blood out here, right? And it says, for behold, the darkness shall cover the earth, and gross darkness of the people. Meaning people's gonna be living crazy. They're gonna be harming each other because there's gonna be lack of resources because the whole earth has been nuked. And shoot, like what we gonna do, right? And then they're gonna be, there's no structure, there's no governmental system, there's no right and wrong. It's just whatever you need that day and however you're gonna get it, right? So that's why it says, in a gross darkness the people, but the Lord shall arise upon thee. But while these people are living like the savages and living like this is some Thunderdome, World War Z type stuff, Book of Eli. We're gonna be having a light. We're gonna be being prosperous in that day, right? And they're gonna see that. And what is gonna happen? Then it says, but the but the Lord shall rise upon thee, and his glory shall be seen upon thee. So they're going to see the glory of us. They're going to see how we're living in these days, and how they're, out here looking like, they haven't eaten in a week, right? And they're going to see the glory. They're going to see the power, the majesty that the Most High God put on his people, right? And then it says, and the Gentiles shall come to thy light, and the kings of the brightness to thy rising. So they're gonna want to be, what's that Resident Evil? And like they be searching on the radio trying to find, a safe, place where civilization is still, doing something. Like what's that Resident Evil one? Like, come to Arcadia. There's freedom and food and blah 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 in Arcadia, right? So people's gonna be looking for a place like that, and they're gonna see us. They're gonna see the Black, Hispanic, Native American people with the power and the glory forever and ever, right? And they're gonna be like, we need to get with them, and like, screw you guys, I'm getting him, right? So they're gonna be like, we need to get with them. So it says, and behold, for behold, the darkness shall cover the earth, and gross darkness the people, but the Lord shall rise upon thee, and his glory shall be seen on thee. And the Gentiles shall come to thy light, and the kings of the brightness of thy rising. And that's what's going to happen. They're going to want to be saved in that day. What I mean by saved, they're going to want to be given food and shelter and some type of stability, right? Because, it's rough out there in these streets. So Isaiah 46 and 6. And he said, this is the light, this is a light thing, that thou should be my servant, to rise up the tribes of Jacob. So God said, it's nothing. It's nothing for me to make you the coldest of the coldest, the greatest of the greatest. I mean, hey, I do this, right? And it says, and to restore the preserve of Israel, I will also give thee for a light to the Gentiles. So this is God's promise. We're going to be that light to the Gentiles. We're going to be that who they come and seek, for everything. Just like how we go to their government assistance and seek them for everything. We go to their, whatever programs they got to hand out to us and try to seek them for everything, right? And we're going to be that light to them, right? And they're going to come and try to seek us for everything, right? And it says, I will also give thee for a light to the Gentiles, that thou mayest be my salvation unto the ends of the earth. Because we're going to be teaching the world, and that salvation come through because we're going to bring peace to the world. Because the Israelites will be in control. Because the Bible tells us, when the righteous bear rulership, the people rejoice. But when the wicked is in rulership, the people mourn. That's why it's hell on earth, because the people are in mourning because of the conditions of the earth, right? But that's going to change when the Black, Hispanic, and Native American man is in power, right? We're going to rule this in righteousness. It won't be babies getting, unalive and blown up in hospitals and stuff like that, in hotels and all that crazy stuff that these people are doing, right? It won't be none of that, right? It's going to be peace on earth. And if anybody break the peace, they're going to be belt to ass, right? That's how it's going down, right? Revelation 2 and 26 down to 27. I will give thee for a light to the Gentiles, that thou mayest be my salvation unto the ends of the earth, right? We're going to teach the world. It says, thus said the Lord, the Redeemer of Israel, the Holy One, whom the man despised, to whom the nations abhorred, the servant of rulers, kings should see and arise. Princes also should worship, because the Lord that is faithful, and the Holy One of Israel, and he should choose thee. So again, so all these nations, all these, kings and, politicians or rulers, they're going to come to worship us, right? They're going to be made to fall down and worship and pay tribute to his people, right? So back over here, Isaiah 60. Hold on, let's get this real quick too. Let's get it. Get Luke 2:32, and it says, "A light to lighten the Gentiles, and a glory to the people of Israel." Right. So that's the spirit that He's given us. Right. So that's why too it's out of order to be learning the Bible from a non-Israelite, a non-practicing Israelite, should I say? Right. And because we're going to have the light at the end of the day. Where He gave the wisdom to us, the knowledge to us at the end of the day. So it's futile and stupid and working ass backwards to be learning from them. Not to say that you can't learn anything from them, but to make that, your predominant, nah. Right? Because the Most High gave us the Spirit. He gave us the understanding. Right? He put the light on us. That's why we can do this, right? Because He gave the Spirit to us to do, right? Let's get this real quick. It says, this is Romans 3:1. What advantage then have the Jew? What profit is there of the circumcision? So what is so important? What's the good thing, the best thing, the great thing about being an Israelite? Right? Why is it such a cool thing and we brag about it? Right? Much in every way, chiefly because that unto them were committed the oracles of God. The oracles is these scriptures here. He gave it to us. So that's why it's futile and stupid and working out a biblical order to be sitting and listening to a non-Israelite teach you the Bible. Right? Because He gave the understanding to us. We just read it, right? In a few places, right? So it's not. So people have to understand, that people think, nah, the Bible is very clear on how this Bible should be taught and who can teach it, right? Tobit, real quick. Let's get our dear brother Tobit. Chapter 13 real quick. Hold on real quick. Salaki, give me 1 second. And warm this up real quick. Like my bad. But so yeah, this is Tobit 13 and 3. It says, confess Him before the Gentiles, ye children of Israel, for He hath scattered us among them. So, so we, teach our people amongst these Gentile nations and scatter them because since we have the light, right, and we gather our people and we teach, right. And because we are scattered throughout these different nations, and because we got to understand too, the word Gentile is a generic term for people or nations. So a lot of times the Bible will call us Gentiles, and then talk about the other nations as Gentiles, right? But the word Gentile generically just mean nation, right? And sometimes it could, mean, people that's outside of Israelites, like it's saying right here, because our people are mixed in with the Gentiles in these nations that we're scattered to. So when Christ said, "Go and preach to every nation and make disciples," he wasn't saying, "Yeah, go to preach to every nation." That's because what he mean is because all of our people are in these different nations. So when you go preach to these different nations and our people hear the message, we're going to wake up and come out of these nations, right? And it says, "For he has scattered us among them." It says, "Confess him before the Gentiles, ye children of Israel, for he has scattered us among them," right? So that's where we at. We scatter amongst these Gentiles. So when we preach and teach amongst the Gentiles, our people hear the word because Christ's sheep hear his voice, and we come out from amongst the Gentiles. Then it says, "Line up thy eyes round about, and see all their see they gathering themselves together. They come together, thy sons come from far, and thy daughters shall nurse thy side." So again, so these people are coming to pay tribute and to worship the people of Israel. It says, "Then thou shalt see and flow together, and thy heart shall fear and be enlarged, because of the abundance of the sea shall be converted unto thee." Meaning we're going to have so much wealth, so much money, we're going to damn near have a heart attack, right? We're going to have so much, we're going to be so overwhelmed at the stuff that we get. Just like when Fred Sanford won the lottery, coming Weezy, the big one, oh no. So we're going to see all the blessings and seeing all this millions and millions and billions and billions of dollars and stuff coming into us. We're going to be like, have a heart attack. There's so much money. Too much money for a color mind to think, right? Too much money for a color, right? You can give you a heart attack, right? So it says, "Lift up thy eyes round about," but it says, "Then thou shalt see the flow together, and thy heart shall fear and be enlarged." Meaning, like I said, we're gonna see all these nations coming and just lining up, bringing gold, platinum, all the precious minerals of the earth, and just everything, even whatever they got in their pocket, everything. It says, "Thou shalt see in the flow together, and thy heart shall fear and be enlarged, because the abundance of the sea shall be converted unto thee, and the forces of the Gentiles shall come to thee. The multitude of the camels shall come cover thee. The Gondaries of the Midians and the Ephod, they from Sheba shall come. They shall bring gold and incense, and they shall all show forth praise of the Lord." Right. So, like I said, so everybody coming, right? All of our people coming from all over the different lands that we may be scattered to. Everybody coming. And it says, "All the flocks of Kedar shall be gathered together unto thee. The rams of Nebaioth shall minister unto thee. They shall come up with acceptance on thy altar, and I will glorify the house of my glory." Right? So God said, look, all these nations gonna, they're gonna come and just be hitting you off with, "Hey, yo, look, I got," we're gonna be standing they're gonna be standing there like what's his name? Man, I can't think of his name. Warren, what's the dude? Like, we're gonna be like, "Close the doors. No, we got gates. Close the gates. Close the gates. Nobody leave until I get about $100 million." Right? No, I'm just joking. But, so it says, What does it say? And all the flocks of Kedar shall gather together unto the sea, and the rams of Nabal, and they shall minister unto thee. They shall come up with acceptance on my altar, and I will glorify the house of my glory. And who are these that fly as the clouds and as doves to their windows? And it says, surely the owls shall wait for me, and the ships shall tarnish first to bring thy sons from fire. So this is talking about our people that's scattered, throughout, these far out nations or islands that they may be, scattered through, because again, predominantly we're here on in the Americas, but our people are scattered through the four corners of the earth, like the Bible tells us. So it's talking about these people that's probably scattered out to these little far off islands or remote, places that, like that. And it says, surely the owls shall wait for me, and the ships shall tarnish first to bring the sons from fire, their silver and their gold with them unto the name of the Lord thy God, and the holy ones of Israel, because he glorified thee. Right? So all these nations are going to come because he glorified us. Right? Like we just read, like we read in Romans, right? 9:4, that the glory is given to us, right? And let's get this real quick. And it says, this is 2 Ezra 2:28. It says, the heathen shall envy thee, but they shall be able to do nothing. What? It says, the heathen shall envy thee, but they should be able to do nothing, right? Because it says, unto the name of the Lord thy God and the Holy One of Israel, because he hath glorified thee. So they're going to come and do all these things that God is telling us, because over here it tells us, the heathen shall envy thee, but they shall be able to do nothing against thee, said the Lord. My hand shall cover thee, so that thy children shall not see hell. So in that day, we're not going to have no problems out of these nations. We're not going to have to worry about getting conquered and overtaken eventually, because these people are going to have the real fear of God in them. They're going to understand not to mess with these people over there, those Black, Hispanic, and Native Americans, right? Over here, it says, and the sons of the strangers shall build up thy walls. And that's what's going on. The sons and the strangers is going to build up our walls, right? And they're going to do the construction. They're going to have to make Israel great again, right? And it says, the sons and the strangers shall build up thy walls, and their kings shall minister unto thee. So their noblemen, their presidents, their prime ministers, their world leaders, right? Politicians, what does it say? It says, and their kings shall minister unto thee, meaning they're going to serve us in that day. You're going to have 47 times, like, what do you need? Anything you need. Do anything you want. Just don't kill me, folks. Don't kill me, man. Whatever you need. Right? So, and it says, because over here it says, the heathen shall envy thee, but they shall be able to do nothing against thee, said the Lord. My hand shall cover thee, so that thy children shall not see hell. Right? Over here, for the sons and the strangers shall build up thy walls, and their kings shall minister unto thee. For in my wrath I smote thee, but in my favor I have mercy. For therefore thy gates shall be open continually. So meaning, we always going to be accepting their money. Whenever they come in, hey, don't come through this gate unless you got a gift. It better be gold or something, right? Then it says, therefore thy gates shall be open continually. They should not be shut day nor night. But the men may bring thee bring unto thee the forces of the Gentiles, talking about their riches, their money, their wealth. They're going to be paying tribute and taxes to the people of God. You know, that sounds crazy to some of y'all, right? America gives those people over there billions every year, right? Not just America, but many other countries give those people over there billions, right? Every year. You know why they give them billions? Because this right here. They think those people over there is you. They ain't you. And they ain't me. But they been getting billions. Right? So, there's going to be a transfer of wealth in that day. Because it says, therefore thy gates shall be open continually. They shall not be shut day nor night, that the man may bring unto thee the forces of the Gentiles, and their kingship may be brought. Right? So now, that's what's happening. So now, they don't want this reversal road. This might be too traumatic for them. You know, they're not cool with this. They're not comfortable serving the blacks. Right? So, what God thought about that already. So God said, for the nation and kingdom that will not serve thee shall perish. Yea, those nations shall be utterly wasted. So God said, hey, you don't want to serve the blacks. Then it says, for the nation and kingdom that will not serve thee shall perish. Yeah, those nations shall be utterly wasted. So that's God's plan. So, all right, you don't want to serve my people like my people served you for the last 500-something years? All right. You know, what's that eraser? Erase this nation off the universe. Right? Because it says, for the nation and kingdom that will not serve thee shall perish. Yeah, those nations shall be utterly wasted. The glory of Lebanon shall come unto thee, the fir tree of the pine tree, the box together, to beautify the place of my sanctuary. I will make the place of my feet glorious. The son also of them that afflicted. The sons of them that also inflicted thee. So, because some people say, well, you know, I wasn't back during slavery, you know. That was a long time ago. That has nothing to do with me, you know. I didn't do nothing about that. You know, you got to get over that. That was a long time ago. But God doesn't look at it like that. Because God just told us, what did he say? The sons also of them that afflicted thee. So they children's, even the children's. And that afflicted thee shall come bending unto thee, and shall, and all they that despise thee shall bow themselves down. So they're going to bow themselves down, right? Because they're going to realize, like, dang, okay, we done effed up. Yeah, we sorry. Right? Then it says, shall bow themselves down at the soles of their feet, and they shall call thee the city of the Lord, the Zion of the Holy One of Israel. And that's what they're gonna know that we are the people of God, right? And how do we get to that point? You know, because what's gonna have to happen for the sons of them that inflicted us to understand that we are them niggas? What's gonna have to happen is this. Isaiah 14:21. Prepare slaughter for his children, for the iniquity of their fathers. Because right over here, in case you don't understand it, it just told us. It just said, the sons also of them that afflicted thee shall come bending unto thee, and all they that despise thee shall bow themselves down at the sole of thy feet, and they shall call thee the city of the Lord, the Zion of the Holy One of Israel. Right? Because after they get that belt to ass, because it says, prepare slaughter for his children, for the iniquity of their fathers, that they do not rise nor possess the land, nor fill the face of the world with cities. they're not going to be able to do anything but what we tell them to do, right? How do we know this? Because over here, just jump back up. Isaiah 14 and 1, to start there. For the Lord will have mercy on Jacob and will set and will yet choose Israel and set them in their own land. And the strangers shall be joined with them. And the people shall take them and bring them to their place. So we're going to take them and bring them to our place. And the house of Israel shall possess them. Oh, there's that word again. We're going to possess them. In the land of the Lord, for servants and for handmaids, for slave men and for slave women. We're going to have these people. And they shall take them captive. What are we going to do to them? We're going to take them captive. Who captives they were. And they shall rule over their oppressors. That's what the Bible says. Right? Because it says, the sons also of them that afflicted thee shall come bending unto thee, and all they that despise thee shall bow themselves down at the sole of thy feet, and they shall call thee the city of the Lord, the Zion of the Holy One of Israel, right? And that's what's going on in this place, right? You know, because in that day, the Most High God is going to put the Spirit on His people, and they're going to know what's going on. And then they're going to, you know, understand that we is His people. And then they're going to want to bless us, right? Because they don't want what we just read over here where it says, for thy nation and kingdom that would not serve thee shall perish. Yeah, those nations shall be utterly wasted. They don't want no smoke, right? They don't want no problems. They don't want no problems. But, all right. So, yeah, that's what's going on in the world. So, you know, the light is coming to the people of Israel, but as we are waking up and understanding the truth and who we are as a people, the Most High God is broadening our understanding and waking us up as a nation, you know? So, and all this stuff is coming into fruition, you know, by, you know, Most High God grace, right? So, again, you know, keep the faith, you know, we're going to, you know, keep, you know, the stuff going, you know, following these prophecies, right? And continue to wake our people as the Most High God is sealing the elect, right? So, then, like I said, then one day, like I said, we're gonna see all this stuff come to play. So, say shalom, peace. Next time we out. We out the 5,000.